Hello guys, welcome to another video. Noah White here again. Today you will not be seeing my beautiful face, but instead I'm going to try and walk you guys through the EMU software. I'm not going to go into how to tune your cars or how to do any of that, just kind of an overview of how to navigate through the software, how to download a base map from the EMU website and how to load that up, and just kind of give just a general overview so that way you guys at home that want to try and tune the car, or at least get it started so you can drive it to your tuner, stuff like that. So obviously I have the EMU Black software open right now, and I just have it downloaded onto I'm on my desktop right now, not on the laptop, but in order to get this onto your desktop or to your laptop, what you would need to do is to go to ECUmasterusa.com. You see I just have that up there already, and you would just go to the download section, which is right here on the left. Hopefully you guys can see my mouse. Just go to the download section. I definitely suggest reading all this stuff, especially this first start checklist. It's super helpful to be able to go through all your wiring and just check everything to make sure it's right before you try and start it. But anyway, you want to scroll down to where it says EMU Client Tuning Software. Now there's two different places you can get it from. The first link, I'll click on it so you guys can see, will bring you to same website, but if you just scroll down to the EMU Black, which is what we're going to be using, and you'll want to download this EMU Black software package 2.138. So I'm not going to click on it because I already have it downloaded, but you'll click on that and you'll just follow the prompts, and that will allow you to download the EMU software, this particular version, which is 2.138, which I suggest because it's their most stable client right now. However, if you go back, you'll also see just below that ecumaster.com/TV. If you click on that, this has a lot of beta software, meaning it's not finalized yet. They're just adding things to it. And if you go down here where it says EMU Black, if you click on read on the changelog, it'll go through all of the revisions and it'll tell you what they added and what they took away or what they fixed. As you can see, this is 2.166, whereas the other one I'm using is 2.138. So obviously they've made a lot of revisions over time, and if you wanted to look at these, you can just click install on it and it'll install that particular software onto your computer. So I'll let you decide what you want to use. The guys at EMU Black suggested that I use 2.138, so I went ahead and do that. So anyway, that's how you're going to get that onto the computer. So after you do that, this will allow you to open up this here software. There isn't any tunes or anything. This is just software right now that is open, and there's nothing on here. There's nothing in here. So if you try to plug this up into your car, it won't do anything. So obviously we're running the IS300. I don't know, I'm trying to make this video kind of useful for everybody, but for the IS300 guys, it'll probably more geared towards you, but this will work for anybody who's watching this video. So if you wanted to go on ahead and get a tune, you would simply go back to here. You'll scroll down to base maps and manuals. This is again on the same page here. Click on base maps and manuals, and that'll open up this Google Drive, and obviously you can see there's stuff for Audis, BMWs, Chevys, Fiat, Honda, Acura, whatever. Obviously I'm going to go down to Lexus where I'm at here, or you can go to Toyota, Lexus right here, but Lexus, and I'm using the parallel harness, so I'm going to click on that and it'll open up this stuff here. So the actual tune will be this here right here with this suffix EMUB. Those are tune files. That's what it's going to be looking like. So anyway, you can just click that, download it over here. It'll download it to your computer, and it'll put it into a file for you, so you don't have to go search it around, or you can put it into whatever you want to place it into, whatever file you can. But this is EMU's base, start file for the IS300 or the 2JZ engine in general. Alternatively, there's, obviously the other stuff you can you can get from the Acura, the BMW, whatever you need. It's all here. So if we go back to the software, if you go over here to the left, you can either go File, Open Project, or if you just click on this little folder right here that's next to the floppy disk, just click the Open, and you can see I have some tunes in here that I already have, but the one that's from the website, this one I just labeled as EMU website, so I'm going to double click that. This will come up right here because, like I said, I'm on my desktop. Nothing is connected to the car at all, so that's fine. And if we look in here, some of these values would have changed now, but just clicking through some of these tabs right here, you can see on my trigger section, for instance, you can see that this stuff is number of cylinders now 6, whereas before that was a 0. All this stuff is entered in because, you know, the guys at EMU made this for you. This will basically get your car to be able to start and idle more or less. I do not suggest going out and, you know, trying to do burnouts and drive the car really hard, because it's just not set up for that. It's literally set up just so you can start the car up and work with the parallel harness, which is what I have. Now, if you made your own wiring harness, this should still work, but obviously you're going to want to test all of your inputs and outputs, and you can do that right here. If you come up here to the top left, it says output test right here where my thing is. It's kind of grayed out because I'm not connected to the EMU, but you can test all your outputs and whatnot. But if you have the parallel harness, obviously you're using the wiring harness that's already on the IS300, like you're just using the factory engine harness, so all of your outputs and inputs should be correct, because that's what it was. The parallel harness was designed to do, just tap into the factory wiring harness. So all that should be set. But so you shouldn't have to touch any of this stuff right here. Although if you want to, you know, for different motors, you can modify any of the stuff that you need to by just simply clicking on it and changing it to whatever you need to do. So if we're looking at the top here of the software, you have all of these tabs, and what I like about this software is all this stuff is customizable. So, you know, say for instance you go in this ignition tab, if you wanted to add something else to it, you know, say I come over here to VVTi cam control, I can open that up, and I can open up a table, and now it'll be, you know, pinned to this tab. It'll be here unless I just close it out. But any of these you can change. You got your fuel, you got idle, boost, and these extra tabs have nothing in them, so you can place whatever you want to place into them, and you can even right click on them. You can rename them to something else. You can pretty much do whatever it is you want with them. I guess now we'll just run through how you're going to be able to, what I would go through and check. Even though you got the base map and stuff, you just want to make sure all your sensors are set up correct. You want to make sure everything is right before you try and start it. So if you're going over here on the left side, this whole left area has all the different options and menus you can go into. If you go in here to the sensors setup, you can click on analog inputs. Again, this stuff will be set already. If you have that tune that I just opened up, all this stuff will be set. But it is a good idea to go over everything just in case. So if you did buy the EMU new, it would have came with a wideband sensor. You want to make sure that you have that wired into the EMU so that you can get that information into the EMU, because this is now going to be running on speed density, no longer using the MAF setup. So you need an intake air temperature sensor, and you need the wideband sensor to be able to, you know, tell the computer what's going on. So if we just go over here to the oxygen sensor setup, it's pretty simple. Let's see if I can make it bigger for you guys to see. Again, this stuff is customizable. You can click on any of it. You can select between a narrow band, a wideband 4.2, a wideband 4.9, or if you have an external wideband controller, you can also wire that in, and, you know, whatever these are right here, you can use those as well. But obviously, in our case, or in my case, I'm going to use the wideband 4.9 LSU, which is what comes with the parallel harness. It is a Bosch 4.9. Obviously there is different company. There's NTK 4.9s, there are an AEM 4.9, there's a lot of different ones. So after you go ahead and select that, you can choose if you have, you know, whatever type of fuel you're using. This will do its own calculations within the EMU software. So obviously I'm using gasoline. I mean, you can use E85, whatever you're using. It'll do its own calculations to get the stoichiometric, calculation. It'll do that all on its own. Then you have the heater mode for, how fast it will heat up the wideband, because obviously the wideband needs heat to work. Now, when I did get this from EMU's website, they had this selected to always active, which I do not suggest at all. Please change that to either conservative heat up or fast heat up. I'm using fast heat up because what you don't want is the sensor to continuously being heated up by the EMU, because that will kill the sensor over time, so you don't want to do that. But anyway, that's how you can set that up. Next, you can go to the TPS sensor. Now, in the case of this, there is no TPS calibration tool on this software. What you would need to do, naturally you'll have the car on, the key on, and you want to set this minimum voltage. So, for instance, right now the car, if you have the key on, you can go over here to this log section down here, and if you click analog inputs, if the car was on, you would have some type of TPS voltage right here. It would be reading something. When your foot is off the pedal, it'll obviously be 0%. That'll be the minimum voltage. So whatever this is reading right here, you'll just take this number and insert the value into this table over here. Likewise, if you go on ahead and push the pedal all the way down 100%, this voltage will be, likely 3.98 or 4.0 or whatever it is. You can just enter that value into there. That is crucial so you can get the throttle position correct. You don't need to change any of this other stuff. I find that works just fine for the TPS. With the parallel harness for the EMU and the IS300s, the stock computer is controlling the electronic throttle. However, this software does have the capabilities to do drive-by-wire, and you can set that up in this tab over here with the wizard. You can select whatever drive-by-wire particular one you have, or whatever one you're using. There's plenty of selections for the Toyota ones. Again, I'm using the parallel harness, so all that stuff is being controlled by the stock ECU. Because the car is automatic, the stock ECU is going to control that. So I haven't touched any of this stuff yet myself, but all that stuff's there. Using the wizard is definitely helpful, as it will do all the hard work and calculations for you, so you don't have to change too much. But that stuff is there if you want to use it. The next thing you want to look at is the IAT and coolant temperature sensor. Again, there are wizards for both of them. The sensor that comes with the EMU new is a GM sensor, which is just listed right here, the GM 250-36292 sensor. Again, there are different sensors here you can use, or if you wanted to enter that stuff manually, you can go to the IAT calibration right here, and obviously you can change, based on whatever voltage is coming out of the sensor, which again you can always check right here in the log. You can go to analog inputs, and your IAT voltage is here. So if the key was on, there would be some type of voltage being generated over here, and you can just add that in accordingly. As the engine warms up, you can change the values so that all that stuff's right. Same for the coolant temp. You can adjust it as you need, but those two are there. As far as the map sensor is concerned, I am using the built-in map sensor that comes on the EMU. It is a 4-bar map sensor, or about 43 psi, which I'm never going to go that high, at least not currently. Of course, if you guys have different setups and built engines, you may need to use an external map sensor, and you can do that by deselecting this, and then you would have obviously you'd have your map sensor wired into an input, and you could select where to get that information from. But I am using the built-in map sensor, so that setting I do not need to change, as well as a barometric sensor. I don't have much elevation change where I live. Maybe if you live somewhere that has a big elevation change, or you drive, then you can turn that on if you need to or not. Any other pressure sensors? Yeah, pressure sensor. I mean, if you have the stuff wired in, like oil pressure or fuel pressure sensor, if you have that stuff wired in, you would find all that information here and how to set it up. Like, for instance, fuel pressure. Your gauge will be, from, I don't know, 0 to 150 psi, and you would just need to set that up as you need to. So that'd be most of the sensor setup. All the other stuff is pretty advanced stuff, or things that people usually won't be running in general. So whatever changes you make, as you can see here, all these little yellow triangles here, whatever changes you would make, you would actually, if I was connected to the EMU right now, this little icon to the left of the open file would be lit up. It's like a black color, and it just says make tables permanent. So whatever changes you make here, if you don't make them permanent, next time you cycle the key on, all that stuff's going to be erased, or it'll just default back to what it was before. So make sure as you're making changes, you don't forget to click this button up here to make them all permanent. After you got all your sensors set up, pretty much can go to, I'll go to the fuel table now. And again, this is based on volumetric efficiency. So that is pretty much how this car is going to determine, how much fuel to give. The main part about this is you need to have your injectors set up correctly. I'm using the stock, well, now I'm using the super injectors, but it doesn't really matter. If we come over here to the fueling section, we'll open up the general tab, and in order to do calculations, again, if you have the base map open, you won't have to worry about any of this stuff. But in case you don't use, or not using a Supra, or not using a 2J, or using some other engine, you will need to provide the displacement of the engine. Obviously it's a 3-liter. Speed density is what we're going to be tuning on, which is what anybody will be tuning on mostly. Then you would need to provide the injector size right here. 440 cc's are pretty much stock Supra or 7M GT size, but if you're running, I don't know, 1000 cc, 2000 cc, whatever, you can just change that there. Again, over here on the injector size, you have the injector wizard you can open up. This is where you need to go to select whatever injectors you are running. Obviously you can see there's many different choices that you can use. I don't know the value or what part number the stock IS300 injectors are, but I don't know, maybe you can figure that out. They do have the Denso 440s, which is what this is on right now. So anyway, key to getting this all set up right is the correct injector size, the correct engine size. Now if you're running injectors and you don't know the or it's not listed here in this list, you can also enter in your own dead times in the injectors calculation here, voltage and the offset times. All that stuff will come on a sheet that comes with your new injectors, so you can just enter those values in if you need to. So in order to get the fueling VE table correct, you're going to want to go to your lambda target, which is right here. You can bring it up, and you can choose to look at the 3-dimensional graph or the numerical graph over here. I kind of just like looking at the numerical guy, but you can look at whatever you want. It doesn't much matter. But I'll just show you both. So after you get your injector size entered, you want to go on ahead and set this up. Now this is based on map sensor PSIA. If you right click on any of these things, if you right click on it, you can change the x-axis, you can change the minimum value in the breakpoint, or up to whatever you want, and you usually leave it on linear interpolation. That's fine, but you can customize them however you want. Same goes for the RPMs. You can have a minimum and a maximum. This goes for every single table in here. You can do the same thing. So what you want to do obviously is set the target lambda, meaning this is the air-fuel ratio that the computer is going to try to track towards as you're driving, and you want to make sure that this is set up first properly before you try to drive anywhere or try to do any pulls or anything like that. So obviously as the boost pressure goes up, you'll want it to get richer and richer. Also as the RPMs go up, wide open throttle, you want it to be richer. So this is what you'll need to set up first. Then after you do that, as you're driving along, you can see that this tune display will display your actual lambda, which is the top number, which is what the wideband is reading currently. versus the target lambda, which is what you just set up in that table. So say for instance you are targeting 0.8 lambda and you're only getting 0.9, let's say. That's when you would jump into the table based on wherever you're at, and you would add fuel to that particular area, so that way you can get it on track to where it needs to be. Then you go down to the fuel cut. You have an RPM limit, which you can set. Obviously, you can set it to whatever you want to. I haven't done anything with this tune at all. This is just the base tune that comes with the EMU, so you can change that as necessary. Also, you can change the fuel cut. Now notice it says 58 psi, which is absolute pressure. So that also is going to take into account vacuum scale. So 14.7 is just atmospheric pressure. So whatever this number is right here, say 58 right there, you just, whatever number you have, you just need to subtract 14.7 from it, and that'll give you the actual value of what it is. So if we take away 14.7 from that, we'll be at 43 psi. Obviously you can change that to whatever you want, and there's just a bunch of stuff here you can go through, but in general I mess with the RPM limit and the fuel cut. So in case I overboost the car by accident, I have mine set to just 10 pounds. Mine is actually set to around 25 psi right now, so if I go over that, it'll cut the fuel. But yeah, aside from that, that's pretty much all you need to do for the fueling. The fuel table is here. You can select it all if you need to. You can add in whatever value you want. If you wanted to make them all 100, you would just write 100 and press enter. You can do that. If you need to undo what you did, you can just press Control Z. That'll bring it back to what it was. And likewise, if I wanted to select a few cells here, you can make a 1% change by pressing the plus button. You can see it going up there. Plus will make a 1% change. Likewise, minus will make a 1% change. If you wanted to make a larger change, you can press Shift and plus, and that'll make a 5% change, plus or minus. If you wanted to get really finicky, you can make a 0.1% change by pressing Alt and plus, and that'll change it. And you can pretty much do that however you want. Alternatively, if you wanted to make arithmetic changes, like say you wanted to add a 5% to these cells I have selected, you can just press 1 and the plus sign and press enter, and that'll add 5. Or if you wanted to do multiplication, if you wanted a 5% change, also you can put 1.05 and the multiplication sign and press enter, and that'll change it as well. Don't forget that whatever changes you're making, you need to make the tables permanent on the left side. So that's pretty much the VE table in general and how you would make changes. Obviously you're going to be doing this stuff on a dyno, or maybe if you're street tuning, you can do that, which brings me over here to this log. What I love about the EMU Black is it takes a log consistently, a live data log. Like if I had the car on right now and it was plugged up, there would be lines over here showing, just a log. It'll just be running. At the top over here, there is a pause button, so you can stop, go back, check out whatever you need to. And again, all of this is customizable. You can see up here there's graph 1, graph 2, and you can set them up how you want, or you can use the presets. So if you right click anywhere, like say this one is showing RPMs right now and I wanted to change it to something else, you can just right click on it, go to set log channel, or there's even presets. So if you click on any of these presets, it'll bring up its own set of channels that it's logging. But let me just click on fuel. But if I wanted to change a specific one, I can go to set channel log and I can type in, I don't know, say if I wanted to know the boost target, I can just click on the boost target, and now that changed from RPM to boost target. Or if I wanted to go back to the RPMs, I'll just press RPMs, click on RPMs and OK, and I'll bring the RPMs back. What I'd like to have on mine, I do have RPMs. I have map pressure, which is an absolute pressure. There's a lambda target here. Let me change this other one to lambda target. So the green section over here will be actual lambda, what's actually being measured as what is seen by the wideband sensor, and then there is a lambda target over here. Same goes for the ignition table. It operates the same way. You can add 5%, add 1%, add 0.01% to whatever you need, and you can set all that stuff up there as you need to. Same for the RPM breakpoints and how you want to change that. And the thing about this is when you change the ignition table here, it also will apply itself to the fuel table. So let's say I wanted to put, I don't know, 900 right here. Press enter. If I go over to the fuel table, it'll also be now 900. And you don't have to change any of the row that it was in. It'll automatically do the calculations on its own. So you don't have to mess with any of that. Only other thing I think I would suggest when you first try to get this started is obviously this base tune should be correct. But just in case you want to, I would like to check timing with the timing light. And if you have the engine started, if you go into your ignition table, naturally this thing will want to target about 15 or 16 degrees before top dead center as it's idling, which it should be. You can double check that by hooking up a timing light to cylinder number 1 and make sure that you're receiving that the timing matches, on the motor physically versus what's in the computer. If you wanted to, let's say, lock in a certain angle, you can come to the triggers tab over here where it says ignition primary trigger, which will be the crankshaft speed. And if you come down on the bottom, it says ignition angle lock. So if you click on that, you can enter a certain degree, and this will it'll just lock it at this particular angle no matter what you have in your timing map or anything. You can set this up that way. You can make sure that your engine is physically at the correct spot versus what you have in the EMU software. So after you get that set, make sure you do unclick this box, because some people forget and then they're driving along and they're like, why is my car not advancing any timings? Because this box still checks. So make sure you unclick it when you're done with that. This has the capability of controlling the cam gears. It can only control 2 cam gears, so you can, if you have an inline engine, 4-cylinder, 6-cylinder, it'll control the intake and exhaust side if you have that capability. Or in the case of ours, the VVTi is only on the intake cam, so we only need to do that. So if we come to the VVTi little tab over here, and we don't have VTEC, so, well, I don't have VTEC, but if you go to the cam, you go to parameters, you can set all that stuff up here. Obviously this is a VVTi or double Vanos or none. This is VVTi, and this should all be set already in the base map, and you don't have to mess with it. But if you wanted to open up the map, here is the map, and you can adjust it here if you need to do whatever settings you need to do. And lastly, I'm going to talk about boost control, which is over here in the boost section. If you go to the parameters, obviously you can enable boost control or not enable it. Obviously if you are running a boost controller, you would want to enable that, and usually I tend to just leave it on open loop. Closed loop is just a whole another conversation to have, but usually leave it on open loop. Whatever you have it wired to will be here, and then you set up your frequency, max and min values. All this stuff you can just set up based on whatever type of boost controller you're using. And you can go ahead and go down to the boost target table, and this will be set up based on however much boost you want to make based on your throttle position and your RPM. So again, all these tables work the same. If you want to put 20 in there, you put 20, you can do that. Keep in mind that this is in PSI A, atmospheric pressure. So if I were to select all that and put 14.5 or around 14.7, this will be targeting basically no boost at all. This is just atmospheric pressure. If I start to go over 14.5, let's say I write 20 in here, press enter, that it's going to target 20 psi based on what it's reading on the map sensor, or this would be roughly around 5 pounds of boost, somewhere around there. But obviously you can change that to whatever you need to change it to. Now when you're running open loop, you will need to put in certain values here for your boost controller. 0 meaning it's applying no duty cycle to the boost controller. Obviously, if you see, this is already pre-made. I didn't do this. This is from EMU's website. Obviously, as I get higher, they're asking the duty cycle to be 80% for the MAC valve. So the higher this number goes, the more, pretty much more boost the car is going to develop. So I would not suggest using this right here as a base point. I would actually probably start at like 10 and see if it does anything, and just go up by 2% intervals. Don't just go straight to 50, because you know you'll more than likely make way more boost than you want to. So yeah, these two work hand in hand, both these tables. So, and there's also an error correction right here where you can set up an open loop to have the EMU passively control the duty cycle sent to the MAC valve or whatever boost controller you're using. So there's that as well. But aside from that, that's pretty much all you'll need to kind of get the car up and running. There are other features: traction control, there's, you know, flat foot shifting, boost by gear, flex fuel setup, engine protection. I mean, all this stuff in there. I'm not going to get into all that because that's all just pretty advanced stuff. Basically, to get the car set up, you'll run through the sensor setup. You'll go on ahead and adjust your injectors as you need to, put in whatever information you need to. After that, you're going to go on ahead and set up the lambda target table just to get the car set right as it's idling. And then aside from that, you should be pretty much good to go. So yeah, I think that's all that I need to cover. Sorry, this video might be kind of long and talking, but if you guys do have any questions, just ask them in the comment section below. I think I went over everything I needed to go over. Hopefully this helped you guys out some, but if you do have more questions, like I said, just ask them in the comment section below. So I think I'll just leave this as it is for now. Definitely just check out any of the other videos that I have made so far, and that'll show you at least how to get a whole turbo kit on your car, how to install the EMU into the car. So yeah, hope you guys like this video. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I will see you guys on the next one. Peace.